Philadelphia's carjacking crisis. This time, a man trying to do a good deed became a victim instead. Investigators say he ended up getting shot after pulling over last night to help two men he thought needed help on Roosevelt Boulevard. Action News reporter John Paul joining us live now outside Einstein Medical Center with more on the investigation today. John.
Yeah, Brian, so the victim in this case says that two men flagged him down on the boulevard last night. He was just stopping to try to help them out. Instead, he ended up here at Einstein Medical Center. Chopper 6 was over the scene in the 400 block of Roosevelt Boulevard around 11 last night. You could see investigators combing the area for evidence on the ground after a 43-year-old was shot in the back on the side of the road.
But this time, this appears to be a robbery, carjacking, shooting.
According to police, the victim was flagged down by two men that he thought needed help, so he stopped. And that's when they pulled a gun.
Struggled with him, shot him in the back.
This latest incident adds to the growing list of carjackings in Philadelphia this year. The numbers are staggering. To date, there have been nearly 1,300 carjackings. Last year, there were 754. That's a 64% increase.
Just for a car. It's awful.
Desiree Eubanks is so concerned about the recent crime and carjackings that she got herself a concealed carry permit to protect herself.
It's because a little bit of everything. Not one thing. Everything.
Philadelphia police have put out a number of videos of carjackings this year, like this one at a gas station on York Street in November, and this one by a group of people at a gas station on Wissahickon Avenue in October. In fact, everyone we talked to today said these carjackings are in the back of their minds when they drive around the city, and they take precautions so they're not the next victim.
Violence in the city is unacceptable. You know, we have to do something about it as a community. Can't keep, shooting each other.
Now, the victim in this case, we're told, is in stable condition. There were surveillance cameras in that area of the boulevard. I'm told police are looking through the video now to see if they might have caught anything.
And a police-involved shooting. Tonight, a suspect is dead after an hours-long ordeal that started in a Newport, Delaware neighborhood and ended near a highway. Friday night, Shari is off. Sarah Bloomquist is joining us. And the big story in Action News is the chaotic confrontation in Delaware that ended in a police-involved shooting.
I-95 southbound just reopened after being closed all day. And here's what we know at this hour. It all began around 7:30 this morning in the 100 block of Air Street in Newport with a report of a suspicious person with a gun. That armed man then fled on foot. Shots were fired, and a school bus was hit in the area of routes 4 and 141. Officers then chased the man in that stolen car to Newark. He then got out of the vehicle, ran toward I-95 southbound, and carjacked a second driver before exchanging gunfire with officers on I-95 southbound and ended on Route 896. It's not yet clear if the suspect was killed by police gunfire or if he died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Well, tonight we spoke with students who were on the bus that was hit by gunfire at the Authority enforcement officer. Police have now identified the suspect weeks after the burst of violence on Black Friday. And authorities say he's connected to a similar shooting in New York City. Action News reporter Annie McCormick is live at police headquarters with those details. Annie.
Yeah, and Rick, both of those shootings were unprovoked, which raises the level of concern for investigators. The arrest warrant was signed today. The suspect is from Philadelphia, and tonight authorities are warning friends and family who may be hiding him that they could face charges too. Tonight, Philadelphia police announcing an arrest warrant for 39-year-old Tremaine Salisbury. Salisbury is accused of the unprovoked shooting that critically wounded a Philadelphia Parking Authority employee. It happened Friday, November 25th in the 4500 block of Frankfurt as the employee was doing his rounds.
The bullet hit him in the side of the neck, bounced off his spine, back up out of his shoulder and lands in his jaw.
Working with NYPD, Philadelphia police connected Salisbury to a November 22nd shooting in the Bronx section of New York, where a Sunoco employee was shot in the head. Distinctive characteristics, plus his car and tag information and the locations he went to helped to identify him.
He was left-handed, and through the constant work between the two departments, looking at the video they had and looking at certain characteristics of the offender, including the gun that was used, we knew we had the same suspect.
According to court records, Salisbury has a lengthy criminal history dating back to 2001. The charges against him include numerous weapons violations, the robbery of a Wawa, and an attack on prison guards in Cumberland County in 2016 while he was serving time. He was released in September of 2020. Currently, the state police's parole board has him listed as an absconder. As for the PPA employee, he is out of the hospital and recovering.
That night, the prognosis wasn't very good, but even though...
Some remorse in a Michigan courtroom today.
Your Honor, I had a lapse in judgment.
Where 3 men learned how long they would serve in prison after being convicted for their roles in the foiled plot to kidnap and kill Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
If I could, Your Honor, I'd take it all back.
The men found guilty of providing material support for a terrorist act they hope would spark a civil war. Joe Morrison now set to serve 10 years in prison. His father-in-law, Pete Musico, sentenced to 12 years, and Paul Ballar ordered to serve 7 years.
If I had known about the plot actually being a serious thing, I wouldn't have been.
All 3 were part of the paramilitary group called the Wolverine Watchmen, and though none had a direct role in the Whitmer conspiracy, prosecutors say they did weapons training alongside an alleged ringleader who's now facing federal charges. The plot was uncovered 2 years ago after undercover FBI agents and informants spent months infiltrating the group, making 14 arrests. Authorities accused the group's ringleader of surveilling Whitmer's vacation home and say he allegedly planned to bomb a nearby bridge to hinder a police response. According to federal prosecutors, he also planned to transport Whitmer to a secret site for a trial that would end in her execution. Officials say the murder plot was largely fueled by Michigan's COVID-19 restrictions. Whitmer was not harmed, but did in part blame former President Trump and others for spewing COVID conspiracy theories, which spread fear and anger. Musico and Morrison were also